What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 9 of the Retro Rumble podcast. I'm your host for this week's episode, David White, and this week we are continuing our video game movies discussion, delving into another set of movies, specifically Mortal Kombat, Tomb Raider, and Resident Evil. So let's see who we have joining us this week. We have Jonathan Thornburg returning from part 1. So how are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Awesome. And we have Retro Rumble first-time Rumbler, I guess. John Hanson, how are you doing, John?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm super. So,
are you ready to rumble?
Right, okay. So what have you guys been doing this week? Been up to much? What about you, John? I know you've been studying, so I guess you haven't been doing much, right?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of studying. We're going to move next week, so we've also been looking for a house. So it's been a busy week, and it's going to be a busy next week too.
And what about you, JH?
I've been playing a lot of Super Mario Party on my Switch, and besides that, I mean, I've just been doing my normal Overwatch and just hanging out with my daughter.
I've never actually played Mario Party. I think it's because you need friends.
Yeah.
It's not a game you play on your own, because that just sounds depressing just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's better with friends.
Go on. Yeah.
It's not good with friends. It's just better.
Are they good games? I heard they're not very good as far as Mario games go.
It compared to like the mainline Mario games, not as good, but they're pretty good party games. It really depends on which one you grab. I like this newest one that came out for the Switch, and I'm a huge Nintendo 64 nerd, so I tend to lean towards those than the ones on the Wii and Wii U.
I think if I was to have a party and have friends around and play a game, for me it'd be Chef's Love Shack. Out of all, just because it's so stupid. And
that
I
is
don't
a
know
good
what the
party
questions
game.
are about, because most of them seem to be aimed at American culture, and I don't quite get a lot of it, or even recognize any of the names and that. So as far as what I've been doing, just being on the collecting, been on collecting adventures again. I picked up a couple of things, and listeners, follow the Instagram if you can, because that's where I post most of my collecting stuff. That's at Retro Rumble Pod on Instagram. So I picked up a nice sweet copy of a boxed copy of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, which I'm very, very happy with. It's a big tick off my wish list. I've not played that ever, so
That's good.
Yeah, it's I just happened to jump on Twitch a while back, and this guy was playing it, and I just watched him for a bit, and I was like, yeah. And I'm the kind of person, when it comes to a game like Zelda, I haven't played it yet. I've got it on my shelf right now. I'm looking at it right now, and it's the kind of game, like any other adventure game or RPG, it's a big game, and it's one to invest your time into. So I might even book some time off work or something like that to play it and just get fully invested. I also regained another game of Dig Dug for the Atari 7800. That was pretty cool. Nice. I love the Atari 7800 boxes, silver and red and that. I don't know if you've ever seen them. But again, that's on the Instagram if you jump on that. Probably the biggest thing I picked up this week, well, it's not a big thing really, it's probably the most significant thing I'd say would be an obscure console from 1979 called the Telling Color Stars. Very obscure console, so obscure in fact that there's not even a Wikipedia page on it. So maybe I could make that, I don't know. So so it's an obscure console from 1979. It works, which is pretty cool, and just like pretty much every console from that era, it's just it's an Atari 2600 clone, Pong clone kind of thing. It's cartridge based, so it's got like multiple games, but they're all basically dots and blocks, generally the same thing. A sort of an approximation of a sport in block form. So like tennis, I want to say bowling, but I don't think it's bowling. American football and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty cool. Right, so shall we dive straight in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it.
All right, cool. So once again, just to remind the listeners, we are continuing our movies discussion, and we're diving into another set of 3 movies from. We're going chronologically. So in the last episode, if you missed it, it was what was the first one? Super Mario Brothers, and I'll provide a link in the show notes so you can get back to that one if you did miss it. What was it? Double Dragon, and what was the third film, Jonathan? I can't remember.
The Mario Street Fighter.
Super Mario Brothers, Street Fighter. Thank you. Yes, that was it.
Yeah.
So we've obviously there's a couple of movies in between, but we're picking up the ones that are a bit more significant. So for this episode, we're looking at Mortal Kombat, Tomb Raider, and the Resident Evil series. So what I would like to know, guys, and I'll start with you, JT. What's your experience with Mortal Kombat? Let's start with Mortal Kombat then. You're about my age, aren't you? So you probably saw it when you were about, what, 11, 10 years old, something like that? Probably saw it in the cinema when you were a kid?
4th grade, so yeah, 10 or 11 sounds right. I don't think I saw it in the cinema. I think I saw it when it came out on video not long after. My parents were kind of strict on that. You know, they saw the term Mortal Kombat and all of the like scary things, you know, connotated to that. Yeah,
hellish imagery and fire.
Yeah,
and
blood and gore, and which the movie has like nearly none of. It has some like hellish imagery, but like it's not really very violent.
It's more ghosts, if anything, isn't it? It's just all that comes to mind for me is the Shang Tsung sequences when he pulls.
Yeah.
People? I know he does.
Yeah.
I can't think if they actually show it. I think I'm with Liu Kang's brother. I forgot his name. You see his soul taken.
I mean,
don't you?
I just finished watching it. You don't see his brother get his soul taken, but a couple of the like red shirt fighters that they get their souls taken, but it's really just like a soul comes out and then they're like skeletons or whatever.
Yeah. And so when you first saw it, was that like on a sort of movie rental, is it, or?
When I saw it, yeah, I think it was like at a friend's house or something.
To be honest, I'm actually I'm trying to remember when I first saw it, and I think it probably was the same for me as well, because to be honest, I don't think I really was too aware of Mortal Kombat. I remember like my friends talking about it and all the fatalities and stuff like that. And of course, when you're a young boy, gore and violence does kind of like violent video games do like really appeal to you. So like I can remember like sort of the back and forth, sort of. I don't say across the playground because it wasn't quite like that. It was just sort of like in classrooms and stuff, talking about like very vivid descriptions of the decapitations and removals of spines and stuff like that. So I honestly can't remember the first time I saw the movie. I think it was just one day a random movie rental probably, or even like a Christmas movie, because I don't know if it's the same in the States, but typically new movies tend to come up on TV, general regular TV, terrestrial TV, around about the Christmas time in the UK. I don't know if it's the case in America, but that's probably was when I first saw it.
I've never really paid attention to it, but yeah, maybe that's how it works here. It's just like sometimes they eventually happen. It's like every week there's a new one or something.
And what about you, JH? I can't keep calling you that. JT and JH, they have the same first name, so listeners, it's very hard. Could I just call you by your surname?
Yeah,
that'd be easier, wouldn't it? Yeah, all right, Hanson. Hanson's a pretty cool name on its own. I like that. So you sound like to me, it's like a name for a not an antagonist, a protagonist from like a 90s action movie.
All right, I'll take it.
Like, Bruce Willis or Sylvester Stallone playing a character called Hanson, probably a cop, misunderstood, bit of a loose cannon, Anyway,
I like it.
Off topic, I did see the band Hanson like 2 years ago in Guam. That was a dream come true for my wife. Yeah, and they're not bad actually.
They're still
to say that.
They're still touring. No.
Yeah, I don't know if they were still touring or the armed forces people got a hold of them and was like, hey, do you guys want to go to Guam and play for them? Because I saw Sublime too. I don't know if they're still touring either. So
I think they are. They were around here last year.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Hanson, what about your first experience with Mortal Kombat? Do you remember when you first saw it?
I would guess I probably had to be somewhere between like 10 or 12 years old, and I was at my dad's house, and I want to say that we rented it, and that was my first time watching it. I've always liked it. Back then, I've always been very easy to make happy with movies, and just pretty much this was a reference to a video game that I was like, oh, I am down, I am in. So I was always happy about this.
Yeah, it as far as video game movies go, it's actually not that bad. I mean, you take away the Mortal Kombat characters and that particular reason why I would want to watch it, and you look at everything else, it's actually a pretty mediocre sort of martial arts. I was going to say sci-fi. It's not really sci-fi, is it? Fantasy, I guess. Movie. I've never really been a huge fan of Paul W.S. Anderson. I think the only time Paul W.S. Anderson has hit the mark is with Event Horizon, and that's because
I would agree with that statement.
You would agree?
I would definitely agree with that statement.
I think it's the only film that really, ticks all the boxes for me, and the reason why I think it works is because Paul W.S. Anderson wanted to make Mortal Kombat a more violent movie, because obviously the game is violent, but because obviously they wanted to appeal to children who played, mostly children who played the games, of course, they had to achieve a PG-13. So there was a lot of like stuff taken out to make it. I don't know if there was an R-rated cut out there or whether they actually changed the script. I think if it was an R-rated cut out there, it probably would have seen the light of day by now. So I assume they took out all the super violent stuff, all the fatalities and stuff like that. I think I saw an image of Scorpion with his face off, I guess, showing his skull. When he does the fire breathing move. Is there a fire breathing move?
Yeah.
I think some sort of sequence like that, and there's like stills of it. I think was it in the movie? I can't remember.
No, it was in the movie.
Is it?
Most definitely.
In the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I must be thinking of something else then. Anyway, but they wanted to make it more violent, and that's why I think Event Horizon was better, because they, Paul W.S. Anderson could basically do whatever he wanted.
Honestly, I look at Paul W.S. Anderson because he's done other movies than Mortal Kombat and Resident Evil, which we'll talk about later. But all of his movies, I think he just got lucky with Event Horizon, because all of his movies are way more like style over substance.
Definitely, yeah.
Like
each and every
one of those movies have a place in my heart, just because they're so fun to watch. Like Mortal Kombat is like a blast to watch because it's so colorful, and it's so like all of the sets are like so well designed and that kind of stuff. And then like the actual movie is just kind of
acting's a bit ropey as well, isn't it?
Yes, I don't think he's necessarily like a good like actor's director, but like when it comes to like the actual like visual style of the film, like both Mortal Kombat and Resident Evil are both really well done visually, and I think that's his strong suit.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Other John. I'm going to say other John. Other John. Do you like Mortal Kombat? What did it do right? Do you think?
Well, first of all, it gave the characters pretty much a life that I would expect from them. For the most part, there are a couple of mess ups there, like I believe Reptile kind of messed up my ideas of the character from when I would play the games.
Oh, that CGI of Reptile.
Yeah, and
it's
he's
real
just
rough.
A tiny reptile. He's like,
yeah, he's not even scary. Yeah, he's like a gecko.
He's just little. Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of like a little weasel.
Yeah.
Well, later he turns into the actual ninja version.
Yeah.
In some
That's a
weird
really cool fight as well.
way.
That's
Yeah.
very well choreographed fight, that sequence.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the fights are well choreographed.
Yeah.
I think the Reptile versus is it Reptile versus Liu Kang?
Yeah.
That particular fight, I don't know why it sticks in my mind because I think it's I don't know. I think both actors playing the part of Reptile and Liu Kang. I can't remember the guy that plays Liu Kang. I can't remember his name. Or it almost came to me then. Doesn't matter. But I think they were just very competent martial artists. So they seemed like they knew. I don't know. They seemed it seemed more real. It just seemed more of a fight. Whereas other fights in the story in the film for me felt like a martial artist versus someone who had about 6 weeks worth of training. Do you know what I mean? It was a little bit. You got a sense that at least one of them was a genuine martial artist and the other person was just playing the part. Whereas when they were fighting, I got the impression that they were both like really competent martial artists. So it seemed like a real fight to me.
Same with like the last fight too. It was really, really well done. Both of them seemed like, it seemed like a Hong Kong, martial arts movie to me.
For me, one of the best things he did right was casting Christopher Lambert as Raiden.
Oh yeah, Raiden.
Raiden. Yeah, I always thought that he was a little off of what I would think Raiden would be. I don't know. Maybe it was just his
about
voice.
The way Christopher Lambert does it, though, it is the voice. It's not who I personally would have cast as Christopher Lambert, but somehow it works. And I love watching it for Christopher Lambert's portrayal of Raiden. I think it's brilliant. Even though I think it's completely wrong, it's still really good, really fun and rewatchable.
Mm-hmm. I would agree
I can
with
imagine
that.
someone an actor's face came to mind. Even the guy who played Shang Tsung, I think, would have been a good person to play Raiden.
Yeah, I probably would have picked an Asian guy.
And also
honestly.
Raiden, I imagine Raiden being a little less friendly. I don't know why. I think it's the eyes and the fact that he seems like such a cold, almost robotic character. I don't know how best to describe him, but he seems like the one character in Mortal Kombat. Well, they all do really, but I think he is particular. He is particularly a one that I can't imagine being all that friendly. I think Christopher Lambert made him seem like a cuddly uncle, in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas I just imagine him being really cold and harsh and critical and kind of a jerk, really.
Yeah,
That's my take on
he kind of
Raiden,
felt like, to me, he kind of felt like that uncle that he's seen a lot of stuff in his life, and he's just like, nah, I'm gonna protect you with all I can.
Yeah, he's old, but he can still kick your butt.
Yeah.
That sort of uncle.
Yeah. Raiden in the games, always was kind of like aloof, kind of, I'm a god, I can see the future, this is what needs to be done, and we need to do it this way. Not really like, he wasn't really like an uncle, he was really like, like a god figure.
In the movie, he kind of
prophet.
felt like he was trying to be like all mystical and mysterious, and I just don't think it really worked out for him that much.
No, not really.
Although when it comes to what it did right, I think I have to agree with John. I think it's just it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's also super fun, super colorful. For the most part, the fights are well choreographed. I think the characters look great as well. I think the casting's pretty decent.
I have to say, I was super impressed with Goro. I mean, he's kind of cheesy looking now, but I mean, having something like that be like a practical effect, like half. I'm guessing there's half a guy in a suit, but yeah, half puppet.
It's mostly. I think there was two puppets, I think, or something. But what I do know is that it cost like $1 million to make that Goro, and also at any particular scene, there were at least 13 or more puppeteers controlling him.
Yeah.
And it broke down constantly as well.
Oh, so I bet.
A puppet rather. It's not your puppet, is it? Okay. Well, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's
that
the
puppet
puppet.
broke down so much that it delayed the film a bunch.
Yeah, I thought Goro was really well made for the time. I mean, obviously it doesn't hold up now, but for the time, it was very well done.
It's believable. It's good enough to be believable
Right.
that there is this 8-foot, 9-foot towering monster. And I think
that was the one thing I was going to say, though, is I thought he was kind of short in the movie for what I would think he was.
Yeah, he's almost twice as tall as a normal person, really, isn't he, in the games? He's like towering,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. So I think that's one of the reasons why, spoiler alert, I guess, how he is dispatched, that Johnny Cage basically punches him in the crotch and he falls off a cliff.
Yeah.
Which was actually a really funny moment, and it goes well with Johnny Cage.
This is where you fall down.
Yeah.
I
Falling
think
back
they
to
did that
earlier
because
in the
they
movie.
could only do so many sequences where he gets punched in the face. He just kept breaking down. So they thought, we don't really have to animate his waist area or his crotch, so we can just have him punch him in the crotch and then that's fine. I don't know if that's exactly true, but I believe that is what happened, that they did that because he was constantly breaking down.
I mean, they kind of followed the tropes of like a big man versus a little man wrestling match. You know, Johnny Cage punches him a couple of times, and he doesn't really do anything. He just kind of takes a step back or whatever. It's kind of the same with the fight with the boxer guy or whatever, the guy they introduced just to kill him later. The first fight with Goro, it's just kind of, he takes like a step back, or never really falls to his feet, just kind of lumbers around, and then he uses it against him in the end to fall off the cliff. But
massively unfair fight, though, isn't it? Really, he's like this, like 4-armed behemoth, 8.5, 9-foot tall monster. I know that the Mortal Kombat tournament isn't really about fairness. It's more about like power and stuff like that. I don't know, but it just seems like he is a little bit of a different class.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I've always
Like
thought that's the point of Goro.
Featherweight. Yeah, he's meant to be overwhelming, I guess.
I know in the games he's kind of a joke, but Baraka's kind of the same way with like, I mean, the dude can make knives come out of his hands. Like nobody else can do that. That's kind of unfair too.
Well, yeah, and also you got Raiden, who can actually control an element. Well, not an element. Control.
But he's an actual god.
Lightning. Yeah, he's a god. That's a little bit.
And he kind of like stays out of it as much as he can. He's always playing chess. 4D chess in the background than actually competing the tournament.
Yeah, if I remember right, his role is like as a god, he's not supposed to actually partake in the tournament because he's not mortal. Am I right on that? I could be wrong.
I don't know. That would make sense though. Why he doesn't really fight in the films, does he? Does he ever fight in the film? I never see him throw a punch. I think he throws some electric attack, but lightning attacks. But I can't recall him ever doing any kicks or punches.
Yeah, and I believe that was to just like break up a fight. Like I don't think he was actually in a fight at that moment.
Yeah, he always kind of just comes to their rescue at the end, or helps them kind of like in the background to get away from stuff. He doesn't even go with them to Outworld in the end.
And why is that actually? Because he could easily end it.
Yeah,
couldn't he? I can't remember the reason why he doesn't just go with them and just
be a god. They talk about like early on in the movie, it's hard to miss, or it's easy to miss if you haven't seen it in a while. But since I just saw it, they talk about how Mortal Kombat is supposed to be fought with like mortals, and
that makes sense.
The mortals are the ones who will win or lose this tournament, that kind of stuff. So kind of sets up him being hands off.
And he's just the
immortal spot. I mean, isn't Shang Tsung the immortal for the most part? Isn't he like 300 years old or something? He keeps stealing souls essentially. and lives forever.
Yeah, that doesn't make him immortal though. I believe he's like actually stealing life from people. Without life, he would have died at a normal age
in battle. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I believe we touched on it a little bit, I suppose. But what do you think the movie missed? Where do you think it went wrong? Because it's got some mixed reviews. It's one of the higher reviewed, and it's one of the better performing in the box office. But obviously, it does have its haters. So for you, where do you think it missed the mark?
I'd say for missing the mark, like for what Mortal Kombat was in 1995, it told that story pretty well. I mean, Mortal Kombat, the first game is just, hey, there's a tournament, go, stop this guy from taking over Earth, and they told that story in a, theatrical fashion. They added some stuff. And the stuff doesn't work. Like obviously, like the CGI doesn't work. I don't think it worked for the time either.
No, I think I recall even saying when I was thinking when I was a kid that reptiles looked awful.
Yeah, and I think
it looked unfinished. Actually, I thought.
Yeah, it's like they used like a PlayStation 1 to render him.
And the one piece of oh god, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, one piece of like imagery stretched across one model. It just looked distorted like that. Like actually give him some detailing.
I think looking at it from nowadays, not like if I was to see it. It didn't age very well, I guess is what I'm thinking is like, there are some camera work and some weird stuff that, is really, I don't know how to put it, difficult to see. You don't see it nowadays because it, is cheesy and it puts it in 1995. I think if some of that stuff wasn't in there, like if they kept it as more of like a timeless movie, it might have aged better. People might, be more kind to it now.
And I would like to see it's one series I would like to see rebooted. I think all the movies we're going to be discussing today, one has been rebooted, but. I think for me the reason why I'd like to see it rebooted is because I know there's no problem these days of filmmakers going for the R-rated movie. Even like with comic book movies, there's a lot of hubbub when a new movie's announced. Deadpool's a good example. People were like, "Is it R-rated or what? Is it R-rated or what?" Because although it's based on a comic book. And the stereotype is that comic books are for children, and that's also obviously not the case. Movies surrounding them, then fans following the potential movies want to know: is it going to be, is it going to be tame? Is it going to be sanitized? So that is for me. I mean, everything else is lukewarm. I think. I think story, characters, acting, everything like that. I like the look of it. I like its color. I like its. I just like everything else. But the one thing that it really missed the mark for me was the fact that it's just, you can't make a film like that about a game that is ultra violent and make it on par with Street Fighter. Because Street Fighter is not a really violent game. Mortal Kombat was about gratuitous violence and over-the-top, ridiculous violence, and how fun that is. Just absurd, over-the-top visuals and blood and gore and all this. So the fact they didn't go down that road, and I know Paul W.S. Anderson wanted to, but they pushed him for a PG-13 rating. But that is for me what it really did wrong. Some people might
say that over-the-top violence was like the only good thing to come out of like the first Mortal Kombat game. That game's pretty rough if you think about it.
I don't know. I've seen like just some gratuitous, like over-the-top, ridiculous scene of some character with getting his arms pulled off, or the spine ripping sequence, and like I just thought even like Scorpion's I guess grappling hook or whatever they call it, even that was kind of weird.
It's like an actual like scorpion tail. It's not a chain like in the games.
It's a chain in the game, isn't it? So why did they make it come out of his hand? Is that like a desperate attempt to make it a little bit gory, even but acceptable? It's like, oh, it's coming out of his wrist or his palm of his hand, isn't it? And it's also sentient, isn't it? It's like a sentient. It looks like if I remember correctly, it looks like a little bird, almost.
I thought it looked like a little lizard, but I think
like it's got a beak, isn't it? Like kind of a beak thing.
I think it's supposed to be like an actual scorpion tail.
I guess anyway, I can see that.
He had some like blood-stained, grossed out claw, kind of similar to like similar in presentation as the way like they go over the top with Candyman's claw in the Candyman Cook rather in the Candyman movie. I know that's really really random reference, but when I think about that, and when I think about Scorpion's chain, I can imagine. Because Scorpion is alive, isn't he? He's returned from the dead to get revenge against Sub-Zero, right? So for him to be stuck in one form, so like his chain is constantly bloody, wouldn't really make sense. Like Candyman is obviously kind of like a spirit, so he always looks the same. But still, if he had the chain and it was a little rusty and it was he was grimy and it was like it had like blood on it and stuff like that, I just to slightly repeat myself, that is really where it missed the mark for me, and I'm sure I've seen like could be easily fake, but I'm sure I've seen like mock-ups of logos for a new movie. But I think if they do make a new movie, and I feel like I know they will, it seems inevitable. I really hope they don't hold back, because if you're going to make a film based on a game, you at least got to match it for its themes.
Yeah, definitely.
It's an ultra-violent game, ultra-violent movie. Screw the PG-13 stuff. Yeah, I know kids are going to watch it anyway. I know that's not what they're going to think. They have like a responsibility to make it, safe for children. If they want to go for the PG-13, they're going to make sure that it is PG-13 and all that. But think of the majority of your audience. I think most people who play Mortal Kombat are adults. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, yeah, probably.
Well, yeah, going back to the trilogy in Gold Days and the first three games, and definitely more of a kids thing. But nowadays, definitely, I would say it's more an adult game, or at least it's more
pretty much any fighting game nowadays. Yeah, is more of an adult's game. I think they're too complicated now for kids.
Oh yeah, you got like different health bars and different power-ups and different statuses for characters to be in. It's not just a health bar anymore, and maybe being knocked out is literally like other things, like some sort of charge attack and all this. Other John, I didn't think did I get what you said? What you said about what he did wrong?
For me, I'll make this quick because we're kind of long in this. But my biggest thing was Sub-Zero and Scorpion. To me, the Mortal Kombat series has always been sold on that rivalry. And in this movie, it's almost like they're working together. It's like they completely go away from that storyline that Sub-Zero killed the Scorpion's clan. I can't remember their name, and actually killed Scorpion, and Scorpion's back from the dead. I don't think it would have necessarily worked in this movie, but I think just having them... You could have just had two random ninjas like fighting each other just out of nowhere. And that would have been cool. Oh, that's Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Yes, I'm down. But here, them like working together and fighting together was completely against what I always thought of the Sub-Zero and Scorpion.
Yeah, and they kind of use that in the movie as like, oh, they used to be enemies, but now I control them, and that's just kind of like, whatever.
So, because we're running a bit long on this, then I'm just gonna plow through the rest of my questions. We'll jump straight on to Tomb Raider then. So, what is your favorite moment, and what do you think of the future? What do you want from Mortal Kombat? Do you want to see more films, and how did you see those looking?
I'd like to see more films. I don't have high hopes for, somebody.
I think now we could do it justice. I think
we could. I just don't know if there's anybody who, I guess, would be willing to do it justice, I guess, because it would still be a hard sell to get anywhere near like the budget I'm sure that the original movie had with regards to I guess adjusted for inflation, because I mean it seemed like it was a pretty high budget movie. I just don't see.
I think the original Mortal Kombat was at a budget of only 18 million actually. But then again, we're talking about 1995 here. So what's that? That's like probably something like 25 million. I don't know how inflation works, but it made a killing. It made like nearly 7 or 8 times its money back. So it did very well. But nowadays, to recreate a movie like this, I suppose it would be a concern. I think whether production companies would want to dive in and gamble on something like Mortal Kombat doing well in the box office again. But I think if they did it again and they made it ultra violent, I know I keep harping on about that, I think it would do really, really well.
So what do you say we just keep the Paul W.S. Anderson train rolling and talk about Resident Evil?
Ooh, I'm down.
Yeah, okay, we can dive straight onto that.
Tomb Raider's kind of the weird one out for this conversation, so we'll eat it last.
Yeah, fair enough. So my personal history with Resident Evil is, again, I think it was a movie rental. I can recall I was a little bit older. What are we talking? Resident Evil was 2002, was it? 2002.
I think 2002.
Yeah, so I was, what was I? 19. So I remember still living with the folks. So I would have liked to have bought it myself on DVD. I think my memory of these films is actually quite vague. Only recent viewings do I remember really, but I'm pretty sure I probably was very biased in the beginning. I probably loved it. Just because zombies and Resident Evil is the name of the film. But that's pretty much the extent of it. I think I just bought it because probably because it was quite cheap, randomly, in some shop somewhere. I didn't go to the cinema to see it or anything like that. Nothing cool, nothing fun. I just randomly bought it and watched it and thought, yeah, I was right. That's pretty much the extent of my personal history. What about you, Thornburg?
I probably saw it on Sci-Fi a couple of years later. I mean, I've always liked Resident Evil.
Though.
But
box office wise, so well.
Yeah, I remember hearing it was pretty good, and I think the first Resident Evil it's all right. I've seen them all.
It's very watchable. Compared to all the rest of them, I think out of all of them, in fact, and maybe Apocalypse might be an exception here, but I find that Extinction, Afterlife, Retribution. I've not seen Final Chapter, by the way.
Final Chapter doesn't end as final as they say that it should.
They play you a little bit open-ended just in case there's more blood to get out of the stone, yeah. So fair enough. Well, I think for me the first two, Resident Evil is very watchable. It's fun. I love the liquor. I think that's a great creature to have in any Resident Evil movie or any movie for that matter. I think it's creature-wise, the liquor is brilliant. I remember the first time I encountered it, and the noise it makes is fantastic. And there's that breathy, kind of moany, seems to be in pain, but also enjoying himself a bit as well. It's kind of a weird combination of pain and pleasure that the creature makes. It's very, very strange, but that in turn just makes it way creepier. But anyway, how it looked in the movie was brilliant. I thought creature design, some of the zombie effects were a bit off. I thought it seemed to be leaning towards Romero-style zombies, and then more towards what was the name of that guy who did Danny Boyle? 28 Days Later? Yeah, Danny Boyle. There's always that kind of which do you prefer, Romero zombie style or Boyle zombie style? And I think that Resident Evil kind of didn't know which one he wanted to be, because I think some of the zombies looked awfully kind of cartoonish in a way, kind of bluish and grey, and other zombies looked genuinely grisly and gross and genuinely threatening rather than slow shuffling pale creatures, like they do in Romero movies. But yeah. So sorry, we've gone off on a bit of a tangent here, haven't I? But yeah, the first two. That's what I was saying. Yeah, the first two are genuinely watchable. I think Resident Evil, the first one is watchable just because it's just fun. The second one I like probably the most because I feel like it's in line story-wise, setting-wise, and it very much is in line with the second game, with Resident Evil 2. It takes a lot out of that, but it also the whole Resident Evil 2 to Resident Evil 3 story arc. It basically takes lots of stuff from that and puts it into one film, really, doesn't it? Obviously with Nemesis.
Yeah. I remember the first one pretty much all the way through, and then like each one, it's like I look at it and I'm like, is this the one with?
Yeah,
I
get them.
They're out in the desert. Is this the one where they're on the like airship? I don't know. They all kind of blend together after the first one.
Yeah. I think Afterlife and Retribution are the two that I kind of confuse a lot the most. Because like,
I just you could watching them to see how crazy they'd get. Because they get insane.
That was my biggest problem with them, because I feel I am not sure whether the people who made the film, everyone involved, the writers, Paul W.S. Anderson, or anyone who had any creative input, I think didn't quite understand that Umbrella are a mega corporation, but they're not quite that mega. Like, I think it's in which is the one? I think it's Afterlife, where like Alice stumbles across like this, absurdly oversized factory producing Alice upon Alice upon Alice, and they're all coming down like their coats in a laundrette on this hook conveyor belt thing, and it's just it's absurd. It's way too nice looking in a way because it's kind of like this kind of stylish spiral conveyor belt. It seems a little bit over the top. No, it doesn't seem. It is over the top, and that's where I think they went wrong. Because from 2 and onwards, it started to get a little bit too apocalyptic for me. I think the thing about Resident Evil is it's always the threat of the apocalypse, the potential for apocalypse and absolute devastation. But it never really happens, apart from like towns being blown up. Raccoon City obviously gets nuked in the end. Spoiler alert, I guess. But nothing really goes beyond that. And I think because as the film went on and they had to outdo, and this is just this action movie mentality, because they had to outdo each other, they just went beyond more and more ridiculous. Like after Apocalypse, it's like, okay, let's make it a genuine apocalypse. Let's actually turn the world in a short space of time into a sand planet. I mean, isn't that impossible? Because not much time has passed, is it? The world changes in a few years?
Yeah, something like that.
And it becomes like would it take literal decades for the world to turn to something like that? To become a barren desert planet? As they seem
Probably.
To be. I don't know if the entire world turns to a desert planet, but I think that's the implication. I think they show the globe turning at the beginning, like literally turning and also turning into a sand planet, I think. But yeah, I think 3 and onwards, it starts getting a bit silly. Very cliche as well. Terrible dialogue. Like the one that always sticks in my mind is in I think it's Afterlife, where Alice they rehash the Red Queen, of course. They rehash some of her lines as well. You're all going to die down here. All that stuff. That was great in the first film, I suppose. But I don't think Mila Jovovich is that good an actress. So that sequence where where the Red Queen, everyone's escaping or something. I can't remember what's going down, but Alice and everyone is escaping or something from one of Umbrella's underground bases or whatever, and the Red Queen says, "You're all going to die down here." Even to the point where the Red Queen actually turns to her side and looks left for more of a dramatic effect, like an AI would do that. And then of course Alice says the terrible line, "I've heard that before," or something like that. And it's just like the way she delivers it. It's so bad. Yeah, I don't think Mila Jovovich is not a good action film actress. Some sequences she did fine. She obviously trained hard for the role and stuff like that. But I think there could have been so many other actresses. I can't think of any, to be honest with you, but I bet there were so many other potential actresses.
I mean, she is Paul W.S. Anderson's wife, so
there is that. Yeah,
there is that. So I think that's the reason why it's continued as long as it has. Is
keep
a way for them to work together.
Yeah, it's kind of a good arrangement, really, isn't it? You keep working, and I mean, if you keep working, your wife keeps earning, and so do you.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
like you keep doing. Yeah, it's kind of cool. What was I going to say then? So one of the reasons why.
The thing I think it went wrong was, like you said, like that scene with her in the place and they're making millions and millions of Alices. Like each movie ends with a cliffhanger that's like, oh, that'd be awesome for a movie, and then the next movie, stuff's nowhere to be seen.
What is it? Is it the end of Afterlife where like they pull away very gradually, and this like it reminds me of actually a scene from the South Park movie. Do you know the South Park movie where they depict hell?
Yeah.
And like a dragon, kind of skeleton dragon, I guess, demon dragon, whatever you want to call it, flies by and poops fire.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. What do you think overall? I mean, I think we've kind of gone into it a little bit, but and also what I did wrong. So I'm just going to jump to you there, other. What do you think? I mean, generally about Resident Evil. Do you think where does it hit? Where does it miss?
Personally, I think the Resident Evil series is like my favorite series of bad movies. Like, I totally acknowledge that they're just all bad. Like, even the first one, which I like a lot. I like all of them a lot, but they just have really stupid plot points, and it's just. I think where it really goes wrong is where it tries to like give this impression that Alice has powers and that she's more powerful than every single one in the whole series, and that she pretty much is Albert Wesker, but on the good side. I've never been too drawn to that part of it. I think that's a really weird kind of story arc to go on, because it's always... Yeah. The whole series pretty much revolves around whether or not she has her powers at that time. And it's just like always changing. Oh, he took my powers. Oh, I got them back. Don't worry. Oh, he's got clones of me everywhere. Don't worry. I'm the one true one because I've got these powers. It just goes off the rails.
Yeah, it does fly. It jumps the shark, I believe is the phrase that most people would say.
You must have loved the last one then. So that's what the whole last
I've actually not seen it. I've not seen it, and I keep meaning to watch it, but at the same time I'm thinking, do I really want to watch it? Do I really care anymore?
Because it's essentially another Resident Evil movie. I mean, there's not too much.
Nothing so final about it, right? Nothing that says like this is the ultimate battle. It's it's going to hit the fan. Everything's going down right now.
They kind of set it up to be the ending. Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, this is totally where it's going to end. Like, this is the ending right here. But then the like final battle happens, and then it just picks up and she goes off again. I'm trying not to like spoil anything, but like they set it up and then they just go away from it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a decision she makes, something final, it's final, and then there's like a stinger where she's like, I'm gonna keep fighting for
for like 5 movies just in case.
Fix everything?
Well, I think they are done making them. I think what they're trying to do is just like, oh, she's just gonna keep fighting, like even though we're done telling her story.
At the most, the series should have been a trilogy, and that's it. Yeah. So, apparently, Mila Jovovich is I think didn't like the idea of a remake, of a reboot. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, because let's face it, if it was reboot, that's her role as Alice over. Do you know what? I discovered one of the reasons why, and I don't know whether this is a justification to cast his wife, but Paul W.S. Anderson said that the reason why he chose a character and a number of different characters that aren't actually from the games, that's mistake number one right there, because that's like the dumbest thing. Imagine if they did Mortal Kombat, and they didn't do any of the characters from the games. They just had a new roster, a completely new roster. I know they didn't do that in the movies, Resident Evil movies exactly, but introducing his own
But
like
the characters from the games are not recognizable, other than his name's Leon Kennedy.
One of the worst. Oh my god. Yeah, that was one of the worst pieces of
she's
casting
Jill
ever.
Valentine, and she kind of looks like her, but
I thought that was pretty good casting. What was it?
Well, yeah, but then like her character was very whatever. I mean, you know.
I think Sienna Glory, that's her name. Yeah, I think she looked the part. I'll say that. She had like
she definitely did look the part. Yeah.
She had the face. It looked like Jill Valentine, I thought. But then again, you don't really have much to go on in the game, do you? Because she's like obviously PS1 face. Basically, is what she's got, isn't it? Is very, very approximation of a human female face.
Yeah.
I always thought it was just really weird that
like these main characters from the games, they're all just side characters. Like they want to throw them in and be like, hey, look, we played the games too. These characters did exist, but they're not they're not motivated enough to actually like build on them or anything.
Also, Paul W.S. Anderson like marathon like the first two games, not long before he like jumped in front of the camera. Or behind the camera, I should say, I believe, or something like that. He didn't really like spend a lot of time playing the games anyway, and I get the feeling he probably didn't spend much time with the actual fans either. But the reason why he said that he did what he did, and why he cast a complete unknown character, do you know apparently her name is not said in like a is it? I'm sure I read earlier that her name is not said in any of the movies. Anyway,
it is eventually. I don't think it is like in the first couple of movies.
I feel like it is. It really is, but apparently it's not. Anyway, I've not checked. Anyway, but the reason why he said that he cast her or created a character in Alice is that if he was to write a complete story surrounding a character like Jill, we know as players of the games that Jill's alive and Jill survives. So that sort of tension won't be created, whether she will survive or whether she won't, and all that. But nobody really cares, right? It's about shooting zombies in the head. That's pretty much, zombies and conspiracies and sci-fi and stuff like that. Nobody really cares whether we know that Jill Valentine's going to survive. So that's what he said. He's the reason why he cast Mila Jovovich and created a character in Alice is because he wanted to create someone completely unknown, so we don't know. We have nothing to reference in order to figure out what her fate may be.
I mean, that's fine.
Makes sense.
But I would say like the way Resident Evil is, like with each game up until 5 having a different. I mean, not like they introduced a main character, but there's 4 or 5 different main characters. If they had done that, I don't know if it would have translated very well to movies, because let's say, the first movie has Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield, and then the next movie doesn't. I mean, I don't know if audiences would like that so much or not. Having a character that kind of lives in that universe is a good idea. But it's got to be the universe. It can't just be your own, version of it. You can't just take like Umbrella and like make your own stuff, I guess, is what I would say.
And it's kind of a hard character to believe in or to invest yourself in, because you'd think a character like Alice would be, given her interactions with Umbrella and so. Her whole story. You think a character that big would be mentioned in the games, and there's that disconnect. Whereas you got this really big character, really really important character to the shall we say the Umbrella story arc. You got Alice, then you got things like Stars and Jill Valentine and Claire Redfield and Chris Redfield and whoever, Wesker and stuff like that. I would love to see a film about Wesker, but it doesn't work for me because that's going to sound really stupid, but she seems completely made up. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't really make sense. But I mean, she doesn't seem like it doesn't seem logical because she's obviously a very big character, so therefore she should be in the whole of the lore from the games. So I don't know. I just don't like the character Alice at all.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It doesn't help that she has like Chekhov's superpowers, where she's gonna pull something out of her butt in the end to fix everything,
and some probably preceded by some terrible one-liner.
Yeah.
I would love to create a supercut because I use toe curlingly bad sometimes. Some of her like acting is really rubbish. Like some like a little bit over the top. Like when at the end of Afterlife, where she's fighting basically superpowered Jill, and she's
that did happen.
Getting beaten up, and she's pulling these faces. Like, all right, I get it. You're losing. You don't have to set it up. I know you're going to turn it around. That's just how these films work. So you don't have to like really random reference, but like, do you remember the end of Blade, the movie Blade? You know the movie Blade?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it. It's been a long time.
There's a moment where Frost is hit with like 5 of those 6, 10, 12 of those serum syringes, and he literally almost breaks the fourth wall. The actor, he turns to the camera and pulls this face, like he's being overwhelmed by all these chemicals that are going into his body. It was on that sort of par where he's like, all right, I get it, you're being beaten up, and the character play, Sienna Glory, I thought it was better in that sequence. I mean, she could have been a good Alice. I thought she was much better in that sequence generally, but I mentioned it in a previous episode of the show where I would just love to see a dramatization of Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 4. I know what's going to happen, but I would love to see that given the Hollywood treatment.
The risk with that though is you have all of the hardcore fans of the series that gives you no liberty to change anything. Like, if you want to do that exact storyline, like any fan of the series is going to get on you really hard for the smallest changes, and it's going to take the film down. And then you have all the people that don't really know the series that much, the game series, and they would be coming in completely confused and everything. So I
suppose that's where a complete unknown character would work.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say earlier. Is I like that he tried bringing in something new and interesting. There are definitely downfalls to it and everything, but it's kind of a no-win situation. If you change things up, people are going to get mad because it's not the original. But if you go with the original and don't nail it perfectly, people are going to hate you anyway.
I probably would be like that. When it comes to Resident Evil, I mean, I probably would be like that. Like if it was like the opening sequence, say like they did a dramatization of the opening sequence where Jill's on the bike, not Jill, Claire's on the bike, and she's arriving in Raccoon City, and she was wearing a denim outfit that was blue. I'd be like, it's red. It's like a reddish pink. It's not blue. That's the kind I would be that uber sort of like proto Resident Evil nerd that would jump on something like that. So yeah, I know the tiny details and stuff like. Although I do,
Sonic doesn't have blue arms, and then you mace the guy in GameStop.
And I did like how they tried to make Leon S. Kennedy's character in is it Afterlife that he comes in?
Sure.
Oh, I know. It's the fourth one he comes in, isn't it? Well, how they desperately tried to Retribution, I think, wasn't it? Anyway, they definitely tried to make him look the part by basically slapping a curtain haircut on this rando who I've never seen before. This actor, whoever he was that was playing him, and it just didn't work. He just didn't look the part at all. What about this? What about because they don't really focus on it too much in the games. What about if they wrote about the what do they call them? The Umbrella Special Forces. What do they call them? The ones that took the militarized guys. What do they call them?
I always just called them Umbrella guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Umbrella sort of like military dudes. Yeah, if they maybe wrote a story about them, or wrote about a complete unknown, but make it just a regular person, some regular pedestrian, but set it in the world of Claire Redfield and Leon S. Kennedy's story arc. So there's lots of nods they could make, like to the crashed truck, for example. They could like have a sequence where they're going past the petrol station, of course. They could even go into that cafe that she goes into in the beginning, where she discovers the very first zombie. You know, they could do that, but don't make it this really big character that's squaring up to Umbrella. Make it more about the little guy who's trying to survive all this crap that's been caused by Umbrella, like most zombie films are, really, aren't they? You know, something massive on a scale of like the whole world's being destroyed by this zombie apocalypse, but it's about these small ragtag bunch of people who are just trying to survive. Make it like that.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
but it wouldn't be a Resident Evil movie because it wouldn't be all that action-y, I guess. Well, they could make it full of action, I suppose. They should have got Romero on board, because I know Romero was originally on board. I know I'm waffling here, but they should have got Romero on board. He apparently wrote a script that they didn't like, but they were happy with his Japanese commercial that he directed. I think he did that after the film script. I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, they didn't like his script, and he was basically sacked from the project. But yeah, he was the one person who could have done Resident Evil justice, in my opinion. What do you think? What do you think a Romero Resident Evil would look like?
It would definitely be less action and more horror, which I think a lot of Resident Evil fans would like, because that's the big thing. Definitely. With like 5 and 6, the big complaint is it's too much action, and then you come back with 7, which is like all horror. So I think,
ironically, it's what was the complaint about the Resident Evil 5 game. Not ironically, but you know, coincidentally, it's the same, isn't it? The Resident Evil 5 game and the Resident Evil 5 movie, way too much action.
Yeah, yeah, just too much action, not enough horror. So that end of it, I think it would have really worked out for them. But it would just be a completely different series, I think. So it would be hard to even compare it to what it actually turned out to be.
I think the reboot will be completely different. I get a feeling that they're gonna use the Paul W.S. Anderson series as a kind of what not to do. It's planned to be a film series, and apparently James Wan is going to be directing it. Oh no, you will produce it. Okay. James Wan wrote and produced Saw, I believe. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, James Wan wrote and produced or directed the first Saw film. So that's a good step in the right direction, I reckon. So shall we jump on to Tomb Raider, or any further thoughts on Resident Evil?
I think we've covered it all.
Yeah, we covered that. Well, I waffled up a bunch for it anyway. So one thing I will say about Tomb Raider, well, I'll firstly say what my introduction is to the series, to the couple of films. Very much the same as Resident Evil. I think I rented it excited day. I think I was a little bit disappointed by I thought I wanted more action. I thought it was quite. I wanted over the top. I wanted a bit more adventure. I wanted a bit more of the Cambodia scene type sequences, and a bit more. I mean, she doesn't do much gun stuff. I mean, she shoots a lot in the games, but I wanted to see a bit more of like the sequence where she's fighting off the guys trying to steal the clock from her. I wanted more of that. I like the way the film opens. But yeah, anyway, I'm going off on one. My introduction was probably like again a random movie rental. What year did it come out? I think it was just before Resident Evil, wasn't it? Yeah, 2001. So I was 18. So yeah, I would likely have rented it, and I recall enjoying it. I recall it being very fun. I still think it's fun. and I think casting-wise is spot on. As far as like casting Lara Croft, I mean, I honestly can't think of a better actress than Angelina Jolie. She looks like her. She really does.
She really does.
So what about you guys? What was your introduction to it?
I'd say my introduction, I think I probably saw it in theaters. It's kind of a movie that like my family likes to watch. Kind of like came at the same time as like The Mummy and that kind of stuff. We like seeing those movies in theaters, so I think we went and saw it. I can't remember. I remember liking it. I still kind of like it, even if it's like all the other movies on this list, maybe not have aged as well as it could have. But I mean, for video game movies, it's up there with a movie I wouldn't mind watching again.
I would say that for me, it's just a little bit better than Resident Evil in terms of watchability. I think I would be more inclined to watch the first Tomb Raider just for a bit of a fun, stupid movie. And the second,
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Even the second one, I thought Cradle of Life was pretty good, actually. I actually thought it was quite a trippy movie because I remember being slightly confused by the ending. I was like, why are they running up this pyramid? What's going on? And why are they suddenly like racing for this bit of the what was that triangle called? Why are they it was a bit weird because like it was actually quite cool. Actually, I didn't expect something like that. That was almost deeper than what I would expect from a Tomb Raider film. I think this kind of like other realm that they were running in didn't seem like almost like a Tomb Raider thing in a way, but it worked. I think it's quite underrated actually as a film. I think it's not doing too well as for ratings. I think it's like down in the 40% area in terms of like reception and that. Oh no, actually it's 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that's mean. I think it's worth way better. I think it's about a 60 for me. But what about you, John? Other John, rather. So I keep referring to you as Other John, don't I?
That's fine.
But I'm not trying to make you sound like a lesser
you're
film.
longer. You are Other John.
Yeah. So what about yourself? What was your introduction to the Tomb Raider movies?
I originally saw it probably when I saw it quite a few years later after it came out. I think I watched it at my dad's again, like Mortal Kombat. I was probably 16 or 17. And I remember thinking, okay, they're cool. I had never played any of the games up to that point, and actually now the only ones I've played are the reboot series. And
really?
Yeah, those are the only ones I've played. And I think the Angelina Jolie casting works for those movies because that's how Lara used to be. From what I understand of Lara Croft now in the reboot games, I think she wouldn't work. I think they did a very good job getting Alicia Vikander, I believe is her name, for the reboot. Yeah. So I think it wouldn't work today, but for the time it did work very well.
I think for the character that for her character design in the kind of like a little bit exaggerated character that she was, the sort of buxom kind of a little bit slightly over sexualized character, I think that she was in the earlier games, Angelina Jolie was kind of perfect for that. She's got that kind of look, kind of like a voluptuous look about her, so I think that was gonna work for that character. I think as far as the reboot games go, they obviously toned that down greatly. She's in this like a kind of exaggerated character that she was in the original games. She was more of a real person, I guess.
Yeah.
Although I've not played the new games, and I've not seen the new film either. But in terms of the imagery I've seen from the games and the imagery I've seen from the movies, I thought that was pretty good casting too.
Yeah,
I would say the reboot movie it's actually, I like it a lot. Like I wouldn't say that it's a great movie, but I think it takes from the reboot series, like the first game of the reboot series, it's pretty much like a complete, retelling of that with some like added stuff thrown in to make it more of like a movie than a game. I never beat the reboot game, so I don't know how like the end of the movie lines up. But
Completely different.
I kind of figured, but I think for the way the movie was building up, it was a good ending, I guess.
Yeah, for what they built up to that point, it was good. The biggest problem I think the reboot movie has is that Lara's dad is still alive. Like, that completely takes away like a bunch of Lara's motivation in my book. It's like, now I
could agree with that.
My dad's here. Now I guess I don't need to fight Trinity anymore. But so yeah, let's just leave. I don't know. I'm not crazy about that story. I think it would have been much better if they stuck with, from what I've known,
it's a kind of other
Lara's dad has always been dead. Yeah. But overall, yeah, I love the reboot series, and I thought they did a good job. They did make some changes, but overall, I really like it.
Well, while we're on the subject of Lara's father, interestingly, the guy that played her father in the original movie, John Voight, is actually Angelina Jolie's real dad.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I think I've heard that before. Yeah.
So I got here. I'm curious what you guys might think of this, because I got here a list of all the women that were considered for the role of Lara. Some of them are interesting. Some of them I think are really spot on. So we've got Elizabeth Hurley, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Sandra Bullock, Ashley Judd.
Oh, that would have been an interesting one.
Sandra Bullock would have been cool, yeah. Christina Applegate, but I believe she would have been like 40 or I feel like, isn't she like an actress from the 80s?
No, she was in
some
Married with Children.
Oh, okay. Drew Barrymore was considered as well. Cameron Diaz, Nicole Eggert, but here's my favorite, Jennifer Love Hewitt. I think would have been good.
I think
that would have been interesting.
I can't imagine Jennifer Love Hewitt doing action though, but I can, like, as far as look goes, I think along with Angelina Jolie, I think she really does look the part. Kate Hudson, Jennifer Lopez, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Anna Nicole Smith. So I'm not sure why. I don't know. She's almost the opposite of Lara Croft in many ways. So yeah, she was also considered for the role, and I think there's another name that came to mind, but I can't remember. Yeah. So as far as casting goes, I think they've done very good. Now I've not seen the reboot movies, but by the way, how are you with the PS1 graphics there, John? I mean, John H. Because I would recommend you go back and check out the original games. Because if you can, because I know like some folks really can't tolerate the original PS1 graphics, and I can understand that. But if you do play a lot of PS1 games and you have a good tolerance for those blocky polygons and all that, I would highly recommend Tomb Raider 2. Highly recommend that one. Dagger's Iron is really good.
I believe there was like a remaster for like the 360, right?
Was there? Well, they kind of did a reboot series. Crystal Dynamics, I think, wasn't it?
No, that's the reboot series that I've played. But I think they actually did a remaster of one of the original games for like the 360.
Tomb Raider Legends, I think.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
I think that might have been a redoing of the first game, I imagine, anyway. I think I've played it briefly, and I'm not sure if it is completely on its own or whether it's something. It might have been a different one, but they had like a bunch of really good games. Actually, I think the later Tomb Raider games, the Xbox and PS2 era, Angel of Darkness aside, were actually pretty decent. Angel of Darkness is an interesting game. It's not terrible. It's just it's just too different.
It's pretty bad. Let's be honest.
I thought some of the NPCs and stuff was a nice idea, but it just didn't need to be there, or rather, having the NPCs. I think some of the stealth stuff rather was a bit awkward. But I think visually it looked very good. I thought the character of Lara Croft looked pretty good as well. The design of her was pretty cool. But yeah, it's still despite what I think yeah, it's still the worst of the bunch really from what I played. So do you know, guys? We'll go back to the first couple of films. And what do you think of Cradle of Life?
Honestly,
I've
I
seen it.
haven't seen it in so long. I
haven't
didn't
seen
get
it
a
very
chance
long.
to refresh myself on it, but
Yeah,
I remember thinking, "Oh, okay, that's a movie." I wasn't
remember
blown away or anything.
Daniel
but I also
Craig did a pretty bad English or American accent. That's all I really remember.
Yeah,
I think we lost David again.
I think we did, yeah. I think the first one definitely holds. It's much more memorable to me than Cradle of Life is.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
because
I think the first one had a better story. I think the second one was just kind of like, I don't know, like it was too dark. I think, like it went too far into the like occult, mystical stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It was about the Pandora's box, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was it.
It was really going on the hey, we gotta get this to prevent the end of the world.
I thought the film as well. I can't remember the actor who played him. He was playing very. I thought he was quite forgettable, really. What was his name? Is he Ian Glenn? No, wait.
Oh yeah, he's in
Glenn?
Tomb Raider too. I think, isn't he? Is that the movie that the bad guy was in? Resident Evil.
The guy that was also in Game of Thrones from the
that's right. That's right.
Is it Ian Glenn? I think it's Ian Glenn, isn't it? Or am I thinking of a different actor? Yeah, Ian Glenn. Or Ian, possibly. Depends on how you pronounce it. But he's a kind of guy who's just naturally suave and charming and all that. So as far as a villain goes, I thought he was really cool. And I do like the way he was dispatched in the end as well. You do get a sense of of Lara Croft being quite powerful in that fight sequence, and it's a genuine, like a real sort of like toe-to-toe battle fight that's going on, and she just she basically crushes his windpipe, didn't she? And I thought that was a really sort of powerful moment because he just like the life just drains from him, he just drops to the floor. It was pretty cool, pretty cool fight, I thought. Oh, you still there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I lost you for a bit there. I was just saying that Ian Glenn was a good villain, and the fight in the end of the first film was pretty good. I don't know if you caught that.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought, I think anything he's in is pretty good.
He's a cool guy. He's a cool actor. I like him. He's great. He's brilliant in Game of Thrones, and I thought he was good in this as well.
He's a really good bad guy actor.
Yeah.
You see him and stuff. Yeah, he would actually.
You make an awesome Bond villain. So going forward, then, I've not looked into it, guys. Did you know anything about any follow-up movies? I mean, the future of the series, and whether you think they'll keep going with it?
I think the reboot movie did decent. I would think. I don't know if it did enough to get a sequel or not, and I don't know if there's really been any talk about one.
It did pretty well in the box office. It was made for just shy of 100 million, and it made 273 million. So it made 2.7 times his money back, and a little bit more of that. It wasn't panned. It did receive mixed reviews. Some people called it a paint by numbers plot. Just obviously a sort of cookie cut generic plot. I have not seen it, so I can't really comment.
I mean, it's not anything that hasn't been done before.
Yeah,
you kind of want that, though, don't you? In a way, you kind of. I mean, that's what. Does that make sense? I feel like you kind of want that. You
Yeah,
want a kind of over-the-top, ridiculous action movie? Yes, you could argue Tomb Raider is a little bit smarter than that, but not really, because it's a
no,
movie about
it's definitely
adventuring,
not.
dual pistol wielding badass adventurer. So
Well, that's
Yeah.
not really what the reboot is. It's not really going off of that. Oh,
an origin story, isn't it? If I understand, it's more of a her becoming the Tomb Raider. If you like.
Yeah. They
In a kind of superhero
set it up
sense.
at the end. Like they're like, oh, here's these 2 pistols, and then she's like, oh, I'll take these, and like that's the first mention of like her pistols. But besides
Yeah.
that, they kind of go off of the reboot series where she's got this bow and arrow, and she's much more careful. She's just really trying to survive.
Yeah,
She's not this
crash land
badass.
on an island, and that
Yeah.
has that she was looking for all along, and she finds her
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah, it
So she's
goes
getting a
off
taste
of,
for
it goes
adventure and
off of
fun.
just that constant need for her to survive, where the world is like constantly out to get her while she's on this island, like falling from an airplane that's been stuck in these waterfalls. It's just bad thing after bad thing happens, and it's just about her rising above that and surviving.
Cool. So the character who played the actress who played Lara, Alicia Vikander, has expressed interest in a second film, but only if there's an audience for it. So it is basically, I mean, from that point of view, it is in the hands of the audiences. I mean, it made a decent buck at the box office. So I think Square Enix are overseeing it as well, of course. And they don't have a good history with movies, obviously. But I'd say a sequel probably seems likely. And I really hope they do.
Yeah,
I
I'd
haven't
be
lost you
down
again,
for
have
it.
I? Oh, there you are.
No. I really liked Alicia Vikander as Lara. I thought she nailed the role of what I think Lara is from the reboot games. So I'd be down for it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a picture of her now. I think she does look pretty cool. Like a survivor, not I know I do think this sort of look of Lara is better than, even though I'm a huge fan of the original game series. I mean, even back then when I was a kid, I was like, look at a triangular breast. This is ridiculous. And I remember like all my friends. This is what happened. All my friends talking about the rumors of the new cheat.
The cheat code. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so bad. But I much prefer this depiction of her in both the game form and the movie form. So I really hope to see more of it. I really hope they come back with another film. And yeah, it looks like it could be. So it looks like it compared to the Angelina Jolie movies, it grossed 273 million. Oh, and the first one made 274 million, so only made $1 million less than the first Angelina Jolie movie, and it made more than the second Angelina Jolie movie. So based on that, and I think it had slightly better responses from audiences than the Angelina Jolie movies did. I think it's pretty obvious that I think it's fairly likely that another movie would be in the works.
I'd be down for it.
Cool. Great, guys. So I think it's about time that we wrap up. I think we've been running over a little bit. So, do you have anything to plug? Anything you got coming up, John? Other John? Anything you working on? Anything?
No, I'm gonna write an article about the new Aladdin trailer. But other than that, I don't really have any huge
I've already
projects
seen
in the
images of
works.
that. I've seen the logo on that. That came out of nowhere. I don't know. I'm still not sure how I feel about that. So it's a live action, is it?
Yeah, it's live action. It's one of those like Disney remakes where it's all live action. So yeah, I'll be writing about that. Other than that,
Cool.
you can follow me on Twitter at RevXShadows, or you can check out my YouTube channel where I cover news, reviews, playthroughs, whatever you want to go with. I cover it all. It's just RevXShadows again.
Super. What about you, John T? What have you got coming up?
I don't really have anything coming up for the site, I guess, unless I find something I really want to write about, I'll be doing schoolwork. You can follow me on Twitter at LeftStick. I post there a couple of times a week anyway. And yeah, that's about it. I'm in school mode right now. It's midterm season.
Well, as for me, I mean, I primarily post via the podcast, Instagram, and Twitter. So, the best way to follow myself is really Retro Rumble Pod on anything. I actually changed the names of them because I recently realized that they were all different. It was like COG Retro Rumble on Facebook, Retro Rumble Podcast on Twitter, and Retro Rumble Pod on Instagram. So they're all Retro Rumble Pod now. So do follow the Instagram because I post a good mix of stuff about the show and stuff about my video game collecting as well. Our Twitter's always it's got more busy than it used to be. I forget who's managing it. I think it's one of our staff guys, Ethan, I believe it is. Who's I could be wrong. Sorry if I am wrong, but we're posting a lot more on Twitter now. So if you prefer Twitter, you can follow us on there, and do join the Facebook as well because that's where we post a lot of our reminders about upcoming shows. And our next show will be on the 19th, and I'll be joined by two more of the COG staffers, and we'll be talking about a particularly big topic, Kingdom Hearts. So that'll be cool. And once again, that's 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 9 p.m. British Standard Time, live on Twitch. Basically this time on the 19th. So do check it out. And if you missed the previous episode, once again, I'll be posting a link to the previous episode once I get it up on YouTube. I haven't got it up on YouTube yet. Great. So guys, thank you for joining me again. It's been an awesome chat. Thank you for joining us, John, for the first time, other John, and hopefully you'll join us again in the future. So thank you for listening, guys.
You're welcome.